Can you share a time when you changed a long-held belief and what influenced that change?
I don't know if I've ever changed a very long-held belief. Well, I think this might be a little inappropriate, but I used to think that all drugs were bad, but I actually think that some of them can be quite helpful for people. So I think there's like a differentiation between, quote unquote drugs like cocaine and heroin and things like that, and psychedelics, which are, there's a lot of research going on right now in psychedelics as treatment for mental health issues. And they've had quite a bit of success in treating depression and other mental health illnesses. So I think that was maybe a long-held belief that I've recently changed. I've never taken any of them myself because I don't think I have any mental illness, but I used to think that drugs were quite stigmatized in my mind and they were quite taboo. But I think in the last year, I've changed my perspective on that.
Are there any beliefs you feel that you will never abandon and why?
I have a strong belief in the power of art and the power of beauty. I don't know why I'll never change that belief, but I think it's because I've experienced how they impact me, how art impacts me, and how beauty impacts me. And it hits so deep into the core of my being that it feels like it's some sort of transcendent universal truth. And it's something that you also see across human culture and across time. And so it feels like it's something that's innate in our nature. So it's a combination of observing sort of my internal experiences and then cross-referencing that with my observations about the external world and history and things like that.
What does it mean to disagree well?
I think it means to be able to present a point of view that you believe strongly with strong and clear reasons, while also being open-minded enough to entertain the possibility of somebody else's, a conflicting perspective. And being able to enter, like basically being able to maybe temporarily abandon your conviction or your belief and putting on the lens of the conflicting point of view.
How can schools and universities promote good disagreement?
I think by trying to teach students how to disagree well. I think that, yeah, I think people don't know what they can't see and they can't learn what's not modeled for them. So I think educators need to provide concrete examples and demonstrate to students what disagreeing well looks like, and then give them the opportunity to try on those behaviors.
And just back to your first point, actually, would you say that it's education-wise the negative connotations around drug use that has led you to believe that all drugs are bad?
Yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with education, both formal education and informal. A lot of fear, a lot of just lack of knowledge. When I was growing up, when I was your age, they had this program in the US called DARE, it was to keep kids off of drugs. And so they basically categorized all drugs into under one umbrella, wrote them all off as bad and harmful and dangerous. And I think when you're young, obviously you don't want to do anything that's dangerous. And I mean, not all people, but I wanted to be like a good kid and listen to my authority figures. So I really internalized that sort of belief system. And they gave us lots of examples that are very powerful of the damage that drugs could do. Like they brought in somebody who had smoked for many, many years and they developed lung cancer. And so they ended up losing their voice and they had to speak out of a microphone through their trachea. I remember this pretty vividly. And it was terrifying to think that if I smoked cigarettes, that I could one day potentially develop lung cancer and lose my ability to speak. So, and cigarettes aren't even a hard drug, but that was enough to turn me off of any kind of like addictive or mind altering or physiologically altering substances.
Was it someone else who led you to change your belief, or was it more
It was
self-reflection?
so yeah, actually, the girl that I'm dating, my girlfriend, she's very big into mental health, the mental health space. and she is very knowledgeable about that space. And so she is a big advocate actually for the use of psychedelics, not for recreational purposes, but for medical purposes. And so she really educated me in that area and sort of changed my long-held convictions that were really uninformed. I also read a book called How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. It was a pretty famous book. It was like a New York Times bestseller. Came out probably 10 years ago. And he was also one of the early adopters of psychedelics and bringing those more into the quote unquote mainstream.
On a separate note, can you give a brief overview of what you do, like in the film industry?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am a director, and I also run a studio, a small animation studio. I create and direct and produce content, animated content, mostly for Netflix. So I've created a preschool show called Go Go Corey Carson. It came out in 2020. We had 6 seasons, a couple holiday specials, and a mini movie. And we won 3 Emmy Awards with that show. And I just finished directing my first animated feature film that's going to come out on Netflix next year. So yeah, I work in the animation industry. I work in entertainment. I've been in the industry for 23 years. Yeah.
And during your time like working in that industry, has there been any particular conflicts or disagreements that you feel have stood out?
I mean, my entire job is about conflict. Process wise, when we are trying to crack a story or figure out a story, there's no sort of one right answer, and there's a lot of people have a lot of different ideas about what the story should be, what the decisions the characters should make, what kind of jokes we should put in the film. And so a lot of the process of making a movie is presenting an idea and then having somebody else on your team say, no, what if we do this other idea? And because it's art and because it's subjective, there's no like one right clear answer. And so you end up having to debate a lot with your teammates about why your version or their version is the better solution. And the hope is that everybody's open-minded enough and disagreeing well enough that you can come to an answer that everybody agrees is actually the better solution. So you're always trying to find the best idea. And usually the best idea wins. It's usually pretty clear when there's an idea that is just universally superior to all the other ideas that are being considered. And so that's the place you want to get to. But you usually can't get there until you're debating and disagreeing with somebody else.
Do you enjoy that process and find it valuable, or would you rather have it a more straightforward way?
I mean, at times it's very enjoyable because at times you can really like feel the discovery of something new that comes out, like a new idea that emerges because of the debate and the conflict. Other times it's not that enjoyable because you can get into a stalemate where there really is no better idea that emerges. There's no new idea that emerges, and it's really just both parties or all parties are just entrenched in their point of view. And at that point, it can be very frustrating. And so in those situations, you kind of just a lot of times that's when you pull rank. Whoever is the sort of the highest person in the organizational chart, they have to make a decision as to what the idea is. And it's not necessarily their own idea, but you have to make a decision to keep moving forward. Otherwise, the whole process stalls. And that's the worst outcome, actually.
But in general, how does it work? So are there votes for the best idea?
No, it's not like a democratic process. It's not like everybody votes, but you can kind of tell when you're debating, you can kind of tell which ideas are getting traction and which ones aren't, and which ideas are better. Because people are debating their points of view. Usually the ones when somebody presents an idea and they present their reasons for it, most people on our team are pretty reasonable and they're pretty intelligent. So I think they can recognize when an idea is better or good.
And finally, has there been a particular moment that has stood out where maybe it just didn't work out as it was supposed to, or there was lots of tension within the team?
Yeah, there have been times where I've really wanted an idea and I thought that it was right. And I pushed it through despite pushback from my team. And then it wasn't until it was finished and we were able to screen the episode to like children or to audiences, and I could tell that the decision that I had chosen wasn't the ideal path. I could just feel the audience kind of getting a little bit bored. And so that was like a big learning opportunity for me. So yeah, it happens all the time.